The U.S. is showing support for Taiwan amid growing threats from Beijing. A delegation has arrived on the island for talks among top current and former officials. Triggered by Russia-Ukraine escalation, Japan's former prime minister suggests the country consider a nuclear sharing program inspired by NATO. Details on a highly sophisticated Chinese hacking tool come out after it had escaped public attention for years. Global supply chains take another hit. Russia's invasion sparked new airspace bans on both sides of the conflict, impacting 1/5 of the world's air cargo, and China is at the front line. And as the U.S. sanctions Russia, China is buying more from the country. At the same time, Beijing is stepping up its oil purchases from yet another sanctioned nation. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Before we turn to our daily news, we have a short announcement. As you may already know, YouTube has demonetized us for a year. That means our ability to run ads or earn money on YouTube has been taken away. So if you like our coverage and would like to see more, consider donating. Just follow the link in the description box down below. Thank you for your support as we continue to bring you the latest on China. Monitoring foreign tensions in more than one region at a time is a difficult and expensive undertaking. But former top officials say the U.S. will not be distracted by the Ukraine crisis and will still keep a close watch on the Indo-Pacific. To back up the stance, a U.S. delegation led by former defense officials just landed in Taiwan for a 2-day visit.
A delegation of former U.S. defense officials landed in Taiwan on Tuesday. The visit was appointed by President Biden and led by former U.S. defense officials. It comes at a time when Taiwan has stepped up its alert amid the looming threat from the Chinese regime. Former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mike Mullen, is leading the 5-person delegation. 2 former National Security Council senior directors for Asia are also on the trip. According to a U.S. official, the trip looks to demonstrate Washington's continued support for Taiwan. Taiwan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Joseph Wu, greeted the delegation at Taipei's Songshan Airport. The White House's Indo-Pacific Policy Coordinator spoke about the situation in the region Monday at a virtual event hosted by the U.S.'s German Marshall Fund. He said the United States will not take its eyes off the Indo-Pacific despite the ongoing Ukraine crisis. Even though engaging in 2 theaters at the same time can be a difficult and expensive undertaking, he described doing so as essential and noted this generation of Americans will demand it.
Here, let me just underscore that there is a deep recognition and intention here inside the government, in the White House, to sustain every element of our engagement in the Indo-Pacific.
The delegation is scheduled to meet with Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen and other top officials during the 2-day visit. Tsai's office said the trip would allow for in-depth talks on Taiwan-U.S. cooperation in various areas.
Former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will also arrive in Taiwan on Wednesday when the delegation meets with President Tsai Ing-wen. Pompeo is coming separately and as a private citizen. Japan's former prime minister says his country should hold on to the active debate on nuclear weapons. That's including the possibility of a nuclear sharing program with the U.S., similar to that of NATO. The goal of that effort to counter its communist neighbors. Shinzo Abe quit the position as prime minister in 2020, but still holds influence as head of the ruling party's largest faction. He made the remarks on a Fuji television program Sunday, stressing the increasingly severe security environment in Asia. He added that Japan should also consider various options in its discussions. Abe says NATO's nuclear sharing could be an example for Japan, used to deter threats presented by neighboring countries like China and North Korea. The NATO program permits the U.S. to store nuclear arms in Europe. It also allows allied countries without nuclear weapons to share them and be part of the discussion in case the weapons are needed. Japan laid out 3 non-nuclear principles in 1967. Those rules ban possessing, producing, and/or allowing nuclear weapons on Japanese territory. Abe noted Japan should maintain its goal of abolishing nuclear weapons. But when it comes to protecting the country and its people, Abe suggested Japan take various options fully into consideration. He also pointed out that emergencies in Taiwan would represent similar danger for Japan, considering the Okinawan island of Yonaguni sits only about 70 miles from Taiwan. Abe's comments come amid the escalating Russia-Ukraine crisis, but the invasion has triggered questions about Ukraine. Given it was once the owner of the world's third largest arsenal, why doesn't the country have nuclear weapons? The short answer is Ukraine gave them up in exchange for protection from the West. Ukraine declared independence in 1991. At that time, the country still held a considerable store of nuclear warheads. It's estimated that the former Soviet Union had left some 5,000 on Ukrainian soil. But Ukraine began to get rid of smaller nuclear weapons in the years following and returned the remaining amount to Russia in 1996. Ukraine disarmed its nuclear powers to gain security assurances from Western forces, assuming its sovereignty would be respected. Those efforts led to the signing of the Budapest Memorandum in 1994. Under it, Russia, Ukraine, the U.S., and the U.K. came together and agreed that Ukraine would be free of future threats to its independence. They also decided it should receive immediate aid from the UN Security Council in the case of future threats. But as German ambassador to Ukraine once put it, the Budapest Memorandum is indeed a format without legal obligations within the framework of international law. China doesn't seem to be following the West in sanctioning Russia. Gazprom, Russia's state-owned and largest natural gas company, is planning a substantial pipeline deal with China, potentially the two countries' biggest ever natural gas supply deal. NTD's Don Ma has the story.
Details of the pipeline's construction were discussed yesterday amid the ongoing Ukraine invasion. And if Russia reaches an agreement with China, the pipeline could carry as much as 1.8 trillion cubic feet of natural gas to China per year.
So having this steady supply of natural gas, this will continue to power China's manufacturing sector. And that makes it attractive for Western companies to move their manufacturing plants there. And then it also creates a greater reliance on China for goods and for services.
This move comes in contrast to some Western countries' actions against Russia. Germany halted certification of the Nord Stream 2 Russian natural gas pipeline. And for China, Russia is its third biggest gas supplier, meeting about 5% of Chinese demand.
China already has a 30-year, $400 billion natural gas supply contract with various entities in Russia. And so this is just expanding upon that. And for China, it's a question of just having enough energy to fuel their economy, right?
Economists say that China isn't too worried about the geopolitics of working with Russia amid the Ukraine invasion. China is more concerned about its own economy.
China's not really worried about distancing itself from Russia in a geopolitical sense. So for them, this is just the economic decision moving forward for them to do that. And
I think as long as China is able to get a steady supply of oil and gas from Russia, they'll cooperate with Russia.
Energy expert Daniel Turner says China's relationship with Russia is not built on trust, but on profitability. And those types of relationships may not last. Don Ma, NTD News.
Russia is China's second biggest oil supplier after Saudi Arabia, making up about 1/6 of China's imports. Russia is also China's third biggest gas supplier, meeting about 5% of Chinese demand. On top of that, Russia was China's #2 coal supplier as of 2021. Last month, just before the Beijing Winter Olympics, China and Russia signed oil and gas deals worth an estimated $117 billion. And that's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We are now sharing a shortened version of our program on YouTube. That's after being demonetized for a year. Full episodes can be watched on our website, ntd.com/China-in-focus. You can also find out where to watch us live on cable in your city at ntd.com/TV or on NTD's partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up, please click the link down below. Thanks for watching. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and see you tomorrow.